I mean, this is so ridiculous that the BBC comes out and attacks all of us to talk about 7-7. They got a little snipe at me in here. A document on Muad'Dib's website reveals he believes he is the Messiah and that George Lucas wrote Star Wars after being told telepathically to write it by the very force to which the films refer. He's been arrested and facing extradition to the UK on a charge of preventing the course of justice by sending DVDs of the 7-7 ripple effect to the judge and the jury foreman and linked to the trial and the attacks. This hasn't stopped the film. Alex Jones, who runs an internet site and a U.S. radio show devoted to conspiracy theories, claims the 7-7 ripple effect has been just exploding all over the website since Hill's arrest. I said exploding all over the web. You know, we don't run a conspiracy website. Peter Powers of Visor Consultancy, former head of Scotland Yard Public Relations, said they ran a drill of the exact same trains and bus being attacked in the exact same way at the exact same time. Why did they do that? As a cover story in case any government operatives get caught by other government agencies who aren't part of the staged attack, the false flag, they can say, oh, it's just part of a drill. They camouflage the funding for the terror attack through the drill. And it goes on and on and on. I mean, the White House right now, publicly, the last two White Houses, has Wahhabist Sunni groups attacking the Iranian government on record. And then Obama goes on TV and says it's a conspiracy theory that the CIA is involved in Iran with this color revolution, or that they have any terror groups operating when it's publicly admitted. Mike Rivero popping in for 10, 15 minutes from whatreallyhappened.com. I want to get you on a host of issues, but first off, what do you know about Cynthia McKinney? I heard you saying you were going to have her on last week. I didn't hear if she was there or not. But it's coming in here that Israel attacks justice boat, kidnaps human rights workers. Israel attacks her boat. This is coming out, being released by one of the aid organizations she's with. Today, Israeli occupation forces attacked and bombarded Free Gaza Movement boat, the Spirit of Humanity, abducting 21 human rights workers in 11 countries, including Nobel laureate Marguerite and former U.S. Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney. The passengers and crew are being forcibly dragged towards Israel. This is an outrageous violation of international law against us. Our boat was not in Israeli waters, and we were on a human rights mission to Gaza. Mike, why does Israel keep doing this? This is bad PR to ram the boat a few weeks ago and almost sink it, and then now to do this, and they're in international waters. I'm surprised they don't just pull a USS Liberty and torpedo it and then say the Easter Bunny did it.
Yeah, it is a serious situation here. They were in international waters. They're actually in a port in Israel now. The ship has basically been hijacked by the Israeli Navy, and the people basically taken into custody, including 6 journalists and Cynthia McKinney and the aid workers. What makes this extremely serious is that, as you say, the initial contact between the Israeli Navy and the aid boat took place in international water, and the Israeli Navy was actively jamming their navigation systems, their GPS, their radar. It was very difficult to get any messages out because of all the jamming. They were reduced to trying to find where they were with a sextant and a compass. And it was just a very, very difficult situation. It was in the middle of the night when this happened. And, of course, the big situation here is the corporate media, which made such a big stink about the arrest of the staffers at the British Embassy in Tehran, and they were claiming it was a new hostage crisis. They're staying silent about this. The same media that was screaming about the Somali pirates hijacking ships in Somali territorial waters, this hijacking in international waters involving a humanitarian aid ship so far is not being mentioned at all on the American corporate media that I have found yet. In fact, it's really pretty much confined to the alternative media. Your radio show and our websites are the only ones actively working to get this story out.
Well, how do we know they were in international waters? I mean, I believe it. Israel's extremely bold, but A, how do we confirm this? And then B, I guess that's why the mainstream media should be reporting on this. The U.S. Embassy should be making a big deal out of this. I mean, even if Israelis are, quote, the ally of the United States, this would be an incident if the British government came out in international waters and rammed and almost sunk a ship, and then the next time it came by, went and grabbed it and is towing it in to, I guess, disappear. I mean, what comes next if our media won't talk about it? Will they line Cynthia McKinney and the Nobel laureate up and shoot him in the back of the head? I mean, that's what happened with the USS Liberty.
Well, the situation here is definitely, it's a tremendous diplomatic crisis here, and the U.S. can basically stand back and try and pretend it's no big deal. But the reality is that this boat was carrying the very sort of materials that Barack Obama had just requested Israel start to allow into Gaza, mostly bags of cement, things like that, construction materials. And so what Israel has basically done is thumb its nose at Barack Obama pretty much on the same day that Congress just put through some new loan guarantees for Israel to go on building settlements in the illegal occupied territories of Palestine. And so it is amazing. Israel is basically on top of simply this act of piracy on the high seas and this violation of international law. Israel is literally almost, it seems like, daring the United States to try and do something, or at least trying to show that the U.S. can't do anything, that the U.S. is going to be forced to go on spending money in Israel, and Israel is just going to do what it wants, whether it's building more settlements or seizing ships with former congresswomen on them. Israel is completely out of control here, and they're basically...
But, I mean, the move to make would be just let her bring the medicine and cement in, and then it wouldn't be a big PR coup for Cynthia McKinney and the Free Gaza groups. I mean, I guess just Israel just does not care.
Yeah, Israel doesn't care. They're convinced that if they spend enough money and if they control enough media, that their world image can be repaired. I mean, after the disaster of Operation Cast Lead, they're spending millions of dollars to run ads. Believe it or not, they're even running ads on my radio show here on GCN. And it's astounding the arrogance that's on display here. Because you're right, the world is seeing Israel is literally trying to enforce mass starvation on the people of Gaza.
Hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute, Mike. Who's running ads on your show?
Believe it or not, the Israeli Tourism Authority is running ads on my show.
Oh, I know what that is. That's USA Radio Network News.
Yeah.
They're not running ads on Genesis. That's news that stations request, and about the only news out there is Fox, ABC, and USA Radio News. Yeah, I've heard those ads. Man, that is just incredible, Mike. Well, I mean, it's just a disaster. And do we know what's going to happen to Cynthia McKinney, or are they going to waterboard her or let her go, or will the media even care?
Well, the media obviously is not caring. They're still all caught up with Michael Jackson, and I've been around the TV channels this morning searching for any indication that this is even showing up on the radar of the corporate media, and so far I haven't found it. It's all distraction out there in the corporate media. As far as what is going to happen, Haaretz has actually confirmed that the Israeli Navy did seize the ship. So it's no longer just a case of rumor and it's, just the Free Gaza people making spurious claims. Haaretz has confirmed that this has in fact happened. The ship is in port. The crew and passengers are in custody right now. What happens next is Israel's going to make a big stink about violations of their national sovereignty, forgetting, of course, that Gaza is occupied territory and technically, Israel doesn't have a say what goes on in Gazans waters. Of course, we know that's definitely not what's going on. Israeli forces routinely shoot up Palestinian fishing boats. Because Israel wants to harvest those waters. And again, this is all about forced starvation. The Israelis are literally trying to starve the Gazans into giving up and leaving because Israel covets that land.
Well, Israel's argument on record is that we took the land over here from the Native Americans, so what's wrong with them taking some of that land? And then they say, hey, you had no claim to the American Indians. Our ancestors had some claim to this. It's just incredible tribal warfare. It never seems to end, and it's really scary. On another note, the video obviously surfaced. We've got it up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. But Mike Rivero, I wanted to get your view on Obama saying, I will never sign signing statements that go against the will of Congress. Now he's signing 7 huge signing statements, literally drawing out whole areas of bills, which really isn't constitutional, but he's ordering the bureaucracies to ignore Congress. And now saying he has that power, so that's going on. Then we also have Axelrod and others making the rounds on the Sunday news show saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead and raise taxes on everybody and on health care below $250,000. And they're saying Obama promised a compromise. So he made pledges he wouldn't raise taxes, and he made pledges he wouldn't do signing statements, but now he made pledges to compromise, so that means lying to people. I mean, this guy is broken every promise he said he would.